The topic of today's webinar is self-determination and student-led IEPs. By participating in this webinar, you will increase your knowledge of the rationale for self-determination skills for all students. You will increase your knowledge of at least 2 activities to engage students in self-determination training. You will increase your awareness of evidence-based curricula that teaches self-determination skills to students. And you will increase your awareness in research that supports teaching self-determination skills. So if we look at the chart here on this screen, it shows that the special ed teacher talked 51% of the IEP meeting. This doesn't come as surprising information for many of you. Also in the research, it shows that the students knew the reason for the IEP meeting less than other participants, knew what to do at the meetings less than everyone else, followed by parents, then gen ed teachers, talked less than everyone, and of course special ed teachers talk the most, felt uncomfortable in saying what they thought more so than anyone else, reported that they helped make decisions less than anyone else, understood less than anyone else in what was said, and reported feeling less good about the meeting than everyone else. A 3-year study of students at IEP meetings showed that students want to participate but instead just passively respond because they feel unwelcomed and not respected at their educational meetings. Studies found that when students attend educator-directed IEP meetings, they simply sit, listen, and seldomly participate. Does this sound like any of your IEP meetings? The presence of students at meetings will assist all team members in staying focused on the student and allow adult service providers to become familiar with the student, thus increasing the soundness of decisions concerning current and future service delivery. When students attend IEP meetings, parents are more involved, educators talk less or at least more likely to direct comments to the student. The student's strengths and interests have a greater chance of being highlighted and therefore used in planning, and in general, all those that attend have a more positive experience. Research has shown that students with disabilities are not major players in their IEP meetings, and is also that students with disabilities can learn those skills to be more active participants in the meetings. And research also suggests that student involvement has a reciprocal effect with self-determination. That means students who are more self-determined are more likely to be involved in their education planning, but also students getting involved in that planning independent of their level of self-determination will enhance the level of self-determination. We must work with students to ensure that they understand the importance of attending meetings where transition will be discussed. Student awareness of the importance of transition planning should begin prior to high school. Information must be provided to students in a manner that illuminates the benefits of attendees, not just that it's the law. Students should understand their role as a consumer of services and the responsibility of the school in assisting him or her in achieving their post-school dreams. If needed, a school system should put supports in place or some type of incentive of some sort for student attendance and active participation. But students can't be truly involved unless they have the self-determination skills to ensure the self-awareness, self-advocacy skills, and self-confidence needed to fulfill their role as a key member of the IEP team. Self-determination definition refers to the attitudes and abilities required to act as the primary causal agent in one's life and to make choices and decisions regarding one's actions free from the undue external influence or interference. An understanding of one's strengths and limits together with a belief in oneself as capable and effective are essential to self-determination skills. Research has shown that youth and adults with disabilities are less self-determined than their peers without disability, but it is important, however, not to assume that this is any way reflective that the capacity of people with disabilities to become self-determined. Research shows that people with disabilities just have fewer opportunities to make choices and express preferences. So students need a skill set to be able to do this, to be able to set goals, self-regulate, and function independently. So imagine being a small child and hearing your parents talk about your birthday party. You hear the excitement in their voice as they talk and plan, starting from the theme of the party, who to invite, and who will do each job. Time draws closer and you hear more and more about this birthday party, so you know it's soon. And then your birthday comes and goes, but no one ever invites you to the party. Maybe you just forgot. Maybe they just forgot to invite me, is what you think. So next year you hear all about this party again. Once again you hear the plans. The birthday comes and goes, but no one invites you to the party. It must not be important for me to be there. The following year you once again hear about the birthday party. You barely notice the excited tones in their voices as they decide on the theme and who shall be invited. Your birthday comes and goes, but no one ever invites you. Now you think parties are not important at all. Several years later, when you're a teenager, you barely catch a snippet of a conversation about your birthday party. But since you have never been invited to any of these parties, you know that your presence is not important. But this time you receive an invitation to the party. You are surprised, confused, and even a little scared. You ask your parents why you received an invitation, and they say since you're a teenager, you are old enough to help. You decide the theme and who will come and decide who will do all jobs. But you respond by saying, why would I want to become involved now? If these parties were supposed to be about me, why wasn't I invited all along? Why didn't I get to help decide whom to invite? Why didn't I get to help pick everyone's jobs? Your parents say, well, you weren't old enough to help. Now I am old enough. Now that you are old enough to come, you do not know how to help with any of it, and you should have been doing it already. But they just kept doing it without you. Now, imagine this scenario again. But this time, insert IEP meetings in the place of birthday parties. Students with disabilities hear their teachers and parents talk about the IEP meetings. They hear about the goals and services. They hear about who will attend, but they rarely receive invitations to attend. They may decide that an IEP meeting is an opportunity for adults to talk negatively about all the problems that a child has in school. They may decide that attending an IEP meeting is not important since no one shares any information about what happens at the meeting. Students with disabilities may decide just to keep doing the meetings without them. There are many definitions of self-determination in research and in the literature. It is important to note that self-determination is a combination of skills, knowledge, and beliefs that enable a person to engage in goal-directed, self-regulated, autonomous behavior. These are only some of the subcomponents of self-determination. A lot of these components may already be a target or embedded within the instruction of your classroom already. However, these components make self-determination measurable, and if a student is lacking skills in one or more specific area, a goal can be written to help improve those skills. Let's look at these as examples within the context of reading. Choice making could be a distinction between choice making and decision making. Choice making is where there is a limited number of choices, whereas decision making has unlimited options for choosing between what books to read. Choose what order to complete literature activities. Choose what role to perform in literature circles. So decision making would be how you would plan out to complete a book report. First, I will. Second, I will, using that format. Problem solving could be as simple as missing reading materials for the day and teaching the student how to problem solve. Goal setting and attainment is setting a goal of how many pages or words your student may read. This slide provides more components of self-determination. More examples could be students can devise a monitoring plan for a goal of how many pages or words should be read and self-regulate this behavior. They could request assistance when completing a reading activity, what a word means. Or this could be that the student may apply knowledge of their rights in regards to their accommodation, such as requesting a reader or a book on tape. Or having the student pick appropriate text based on their ability level. That would be an example of self-awareness. Self-determination and self-advocacy are sometimes used interchangeably, but most models consider self-advocacy a component of self-determination. This figure shows how self-advocacy involves many other subcomponents such as self-awareness, knowledge of rights, communication, and leadership. Under each of the headings, there are examples of ways to monitor or observe students demonstrating these skills. For example, under communication, you can observe or teach specific components to students about their body language, listening skills, and assertiveness in relation to the broader topic of self-advocacy. Think about other ways that you could observe or teach skills related to this. Research has indicated that individuals who have higher levels of self-determination have better employment outcomes, including higher wages. Research also indicates that individuals who have higher levels of self-determination have a better quality of life, including levels of independence, productivity, community integration, and satisfaction. So you have the whys and the whats. So now the question is, how can we teach self-determination to students? Before you teach, you have to assess. Self-determination assessments provide information as to one's readiness to make decisions related to their post-secondary ambitions. Such assessments provide data to help a student identify their relative strengths and limitations related to self-determination and factors that may be promoted or inhibited this outcome. So here on the screen you have the 4 commonly used assessments. These assessments are part of your handout that should be available with this webinar. Once you have completed your assessment of self-determination, then you can plan of how you will promote self-determination in students, what approach you will use to get to the skills that your students will need. There are 4 approaches that you can take when trying to promote self-determination in students. You can use student-driven IEP and transition planning. You can directly teach skills or enhance knowledge. You can embed this instruction into the general curriculum, or you could use person-centered planning. Generally, teachers are taking the first step in inviting students, but typically the student is a passive participant and it does not help in the development of the plan. Teachers need to take it further and develop the plan with the students ahead of time and facilitate them leading the meeting. Examples of this could look like students start the meeting, introduce the participants, read through the document, discuss progress, ask for feedback, review new goals. It may look like students starting the meeting, reviewing strengths, interests, and reviewing goals. It could also look like students starting the meeting and reviewing goals. Students of all ability levels can participate with the right amount of pre-meeting instruction and meeting facilitation from your teacher. It may be helpful to refer back to the self-determination components to see how student-led IEP incorporates in almost every component. For example, self-awareness could be discussing the strengths, limits, and interests. Goal setting, talking about appropriate new goals. Self-regulation could be discussing a new self-monitoring strategy. Self-advocacy would be discussing those accommodations. There are several components of self-determination that can be directly taught, such as self-management strategies using self-monitoring, self-recording, and self-graphing, choice-making, and problem-solving. How would you teach these skills? Directly teaching these skills can be as simple as having a problem of the day as a writing warm-up, or explicitly teaching what goals are and how to set them. Embedding instruction into the general curriculum is also an approach for promoting self-determination in students. Several instructional strategies already have a research base, such as literature circles, IEP template, Go For It Now, and the self-determined learning model of instruction. Each of these strategies will be discussed in the next few slides. A study was conducted using literature circles with 8th and 9th grade students with disabilities. These students showed improvement in their perception of their reading skills and were able to contribute to discussions in their literature circles. Problem solving and decision making were the self-determination components addressed in this study. Additionally, reading comprehension and oral communication were English language arts skills that were addressed. So how would you apply literature circles in your own classroom? You would assign students to groups of 4 to 6. Students in the group would read the same book but be prepared for the literature circle discussion by assuming different roles, such as a discussion leader, a vocabulary enricher, an illustrator, or a connector. Then students complete the assignment sheets to prepare for their role in the discussion. These sheets give the students specific tasks to complete. Another strategy that can be embedded into the general curriculum is the IEP template. A study was conducted using the IEP template with 7th grade students with learning disabilities or a mild intellectual disability. These students showed improvement in their skills to complete the IEP template. The self-determination components addressed in this study were goal setting and self-awareness. The English language arts skills addressed were research skills, writing for a variety of purposes, and sentence writing. So how can the IEP template be used in the classroom? The first step is IEP awareness instruction. What is an IEP and why do I have one? Then students would need to participate in a career exploration using an online career interest inventory and an online occupational outlook handbook. Students take an active role by interviewing their parents and teachers as part of this process. Teachers would provide direct instruction and modeling of how to complete the template. The template includes a vision statement, present level of performance, goals and objectives, measurement criteria and procedures, and services and accommodations. So in essence, students are learning how to write many components of their own IEP. The Go For It Now strategy is another way to embed self-determination instruction into the general curriculum. A study was conducted using the Go For It Now strategy with high school students with cognitive and physical disabilities. The participants showed improvement in their abilities to write IEP paragraphs and other types of expository paragraphs. The self-determination addressed in this study were goal setting, self-awareness, and self-regulation. Additionally, the English language arts skills addressed were writing for a variety of purposes and paragraph writing. The Go For It Now strategy uses a mnemonic device that you will see here in the green box to help students write 6-sentence goal paragraphs. This mnemonic can be applied to other types of paragraph writing as well. Another strategy could be the self-directed learning model of instruction that teaches goal setting within the context of general education class. It is comprised of 3 phases: set a goal, take action, and adjust your plan. This has been used for academic and behavior goals. Another approach is person-centered planning. Person-centered planning is a facilitated process designed to plan and develop supports to meet the specific desires of the focal person. First, a group or circle of individuals is identified by the student and family who have an interest in funding or providing supports for the student. Second, the group meets at a place convenient for all members to develop that plan. Some examples of person-centered planning are whole life planning, personal futures planning, and the MAPS, or the McKill Action Planning System. When using MAPS, there are 8 major questions listed here for you. So now let's look at some other examples of student-centered transition curricula. My Future, My Plan is a curricula that is designed to motivate and guide students with disabilities and their families for life after high school. This promotes both positive self-determination and self-advocacy, and it will assist students, parents, and professionals in making the transition planning process more effective. There are 13 chapters with lessons of My Future, My Plan. Students have the opportunity to practice writing letters to request records and services in My Future, My Plan. Upon completion of this curriculum, the students should have a portfolio with all documents needed to apply for services at a post-secondary school, community organization, or employment. Here is an example of Chapter 1 and what it looks like. I like at the bottom it says, "It's your future. Make your plan." This curriculum is easy to read for parents and the parent member, family, and teacher guides. Each section of the guide corresponds with the student chapter and gives the parent a better sense of how they can support students in reference to the topic at hand. There's even a component that gives a script for interviews for parents when calling the service providers. The curriculum also provides sample letters to assist parents in communication with educators and other service providers. Here are some of the topics of the sample parent letters. Here's the information. Student-directed transition planning is a curriculum that is free. All lessons and associated materials will be on the Zero Center for Learning Enrichment website, and each lesson includes a PowerPoint and teacher guide. This is what the website looks like. The student-directed transition planning curricula consists of 8 lessons addressing many different components of self-determination. There's pre- and post-assessment tools for both for all participants, student, parents, teachers. The PowerPoint presentations are in PowerPoint format so that you can download those and modify them for your population or for your students. You can change things from multiple choice and true false within the assessments as well. Here is an excerpt from one of the student-directed transition planning sheets. Here is an example of a summary of performance script. Another example of a curricula is the ME, Lessons for Self-Awareness and Self-Advocacy. The purposes of this curriculum is to facilitate the teaching and learning of critical transition skills, self-awareness and self-advocacy, and to help achieve the long-term goal of developing self-aware adults who advocate for their needs in education and employment. Here are the different lessons within each unit. Students complete a disability awareness project in Unit 3. They also research famous people that have disabilities. The self-awareness is before understanding the IEP, so the student understands why they have the IEP. Students then learn about their rights and responsibilities both in high school and after school. Students need to feel involved in their education. I'm Determined is a project out of Virginia. You can click on this link and you can see different videos. And in these video clips, it shows students participating at different levels of their IEP, all the way down to examples of elementary school students. It's very neat for students to view other students leading, guiding, participating, and facilitating their IEP meetings. Whose Future Is It Anyway is an evidence-based curriculum for students with mild, moderate, and significant disabilities. This curriculum emphasizes student preferences, needs, and interests. It provides opportunities for students with disabilities to explore issues of self-awareness and acquire problem-solving, decision-making, goal-setting, and small group communication skills. The outcome of this process is that students can learn how to be meaningfully involved in their transition planning process. It includes 6 sections, and each section has a different subject that teaches students to take control of the transition planning process and lead IEP meetings. It includes a coach's guide that outlines each lesson, how to teach each lesson, and the role students and teachers play. Here is a breakdown of the content with each section. Feel free to visit the Zero Center website link for more information. Most importantly, these are free resources. The NSTAC website provides research-based and research-to-practice lesson plans for published studies. On NSTAC's website, there are IEP development and student participation strategies, such as involving students in the IEP process. It includes instruction on participating in the IEP meeting, participating in transition planning, leading the IEP meeting, self-determination, transition awareness, and empowerment. This information is found on the practice description under Where is the best place to find out how to do this practice. In addition to general information about involving students in the IEP process, there is also information how to specifically facilitate participation by using the self-advocacy strategy. The self-advocacy strategy is a research-based instructional strategy that teaches students how to participate in both educational and transition conferences. It uses the I plan mnemonic. I, inventory your strengths, areas to improve or learn, goals, choices for learning or accommodations. P, provide that inventory. L, listen and respond. A, ask questions. N, name your goals. Here are the research to lesson plan starters for self-advocacy strategy. Self-directed IEP is a part of expressing goals. This is part of the Choicemaker curriculum. It involves 11 steps. Each lesson plan starter has been developed from actual research studies and are designed to provide teachers with a start for teaching specific concepts. Each lesson plan includes 8 different parts, including the title, objectives, setting, materials, content taught, teaching procedures, evaluation, and a reference to the research article from which the lesson plan was developed. These are housed at www.nstac.org and is organized by the taxonomy. A majority of the lesson plans are found under student-focused planning and student development, as both teaches students specific skills using self-determination curricula, or to teach skills related to independent living, functional academic skills, and employment skills. This one on this slide links to a lesson plan starter for teaching the self-directed IEP. The next few slides are packed full of lesson plan starters for the different skills of self-determination. By assessing self-determination skills of your students, you will know which components your students need. These are for problem-solving skills, self-awareness, and self-advocacy. You should have a handout that says resources for involving students in their IEP process. All of these are electronic or online resources that promote self-determination and IEP involvement for students. If you know of other curricula or other ways to involve students, or you have found something that works for you, if you can get to those components to help our students be self-determined, the resource that you use is up to you. What works with your students, your population. In today's classroom, technology plays a significant role in how students learn. In today's society, technology plays a bigger role in how students communicate with each other. So why are we not merging these skills to prepare our students to be involved in the transition planning? So when we say that we're going to discuss web-based tools, web-based 2.0 tools, what does that mean? That is associated with web applications that facilitate participation or participatory information sharing and collaboration on the internet. A 2.0 site allows users to interact and collaborate with each other in social media dialogue as creators and consumers of a user-generated context in a virtual community. So what this means is that there are websites that are able to have communities. Examples of these would be social networking sites, wikis, video sharing sites, hosted services, web applications, mashups, etc. You are not limited to a passive viewing of content that was created for them. An example of using web-based 2.0 tools to increase student participation in the IEP meeting would be the development of a Voki. A Voki is an avatar, which is simply what you see on your screen, and it talks. It can use your own voice, or you can type and it uses a computer voice. You customize the Voki any way that you want. If you go to the site www.voki.com, it's free and very easy to use. Students could communicate their post-school goals using a Voki. Students could request accommodations using a Voki. Students could introduce the meeting using a Voki. Toondoo is another free website that enables you to make a cartoon strip very easily. Here, students have created cartoons to communicate their post-secondary goals. GoAnimate is also free. It's a little more complex, so this would probably be one that students would not start with. But students are very tech savvy these days and may be able to navigate this easier, but it is a web-based cartoon strip that has talking characters, props, and backgrounds. Students can discuss many of the things from the IEP meeting, such as maybe their preference, interests, needs, and strengths, that inventory, some type of assessment data, and using that GoAnimate video in the meeting so that the student is participating through their web-based 2.0 tool. Students could use Wordle to express a student's preference, interest, and strengths. You could take the information from your transition assessment and put it into a Wordle. Going to Wordle is very easy, and you just simply put the information in and it creates this collage. Prominence is given to words that are more frequent. For example, here you see animals is larger than some of the other words. That means that the word animal was put into Wordle more times than the other words because it is bigger. Or you could just use a simple picture font to help a student communicate their goals. This is not a Web 2.0 tool. This is just an example of how students could go online, find some pictures, and communicate their post-secondary goals. One last approach that we will discuss in promoting self-determination is actually integrating those concepts specifically into the curriculum. So let's look at the standard of analyze how and why individuals, events, and ideas develop and interact over the course of a text. To Kill a Mockingbird is a very popular book for high school students to read as part of their English language courses. So do a character study of Boo Radley. Analyze his relationship with other characters such as Scout and Jim. And then identify how their relationship changes and why what happened that made him want to hide. And then apply this situation to your own. Explain how your disability or your differences affect your life and your potential friendship. All people have overcome some type of adversity in their life. They've had a roadblock to something. So this is a great time to integrate self-determination skills into that general curriculum context. Another popular book is the John Steinbeck of Mice and Men. And for the standard, determining two or more central themes of ideas of text and analyze their development over the course of the text, including how they build and interact in one another. Think about George and Lenny. Why did they move around so much in that text? What were they chasing? They were chasing dreams. Well, what are your dreams for the future, and what would be your support that you would need? And then you could talk about what services you need to access at the college level or at the community college level. What are disability services? What is the meal plan services? All of those are components of self-determination, because you would need to use decision-making skills for specific things, or advocacy skills to get in touch with the disability service support providers. But yet all students need support to make their dreams come true. And so this would be appropriate for any classroom. Analyze the impact of authors' choices regarding how to develop and relate elements of a story. This would be a good short story or a biography type example where students are discussing their own situations and how they didn't give up in the face of adversity. Students may not know the story of Rosa Parks or Beethoven or J.K. Rowling. It's interesting to have students research these people and how they didn't give up in the face of adversity and what the outcome was. Being able to cite strong and thorough textual evidence to support analysis of what the text says explicitly, as well as drawing inferences from the text. Being able to support decisions is a concept and skill that is very important in self-determination as well as in the general curriculum. So think about 2 post-secondary educational institutions or training programs that you are interested in and summarize the information that is given on their website for prospective students. Identify which of the 2 is better for you and then have evidence of your choice. This is a great example of choice making or decision making, and students of all disabilities or with or without disabilities can participate in this activity. Produce clear and coherent writing in which the development, organization, and style are appropriate to task, purpose, and audience. So think about an assignment that is to address an issue or concern through essay. You could write a product complaint, or a letter to the school or local newspaper, or to be read at the school board meeting. This is an example of an advocacy, but how do you professionally advocate for yourself or advocate for a product or service? We've talked about many different curricula and ideas to help teach self-determination skills to students. Skills taught through involving them in that process include describing their own disability, their strengths, their needs, their present level. They can communicate their interests and preferences. They are engaged in the goal setting. They participate in discussions regarding their post-school outcomes and plans. They choose and negotiate what type of accommodations they need, and they accept responsibility, and they're able to evaluate their progress. So what about post-secondary and post-school outcomes? We know on average students with disabilities enter higher education nearly 3 years later than students without disabilities. Some challenges faced with going into post-secondary school is they are unfamiliar of what to expect. They have the lack of understanding between the law and how that changes in high school and post-secondary, and the changing role of the age of majority, and the insufficient self-advocacy skills. It's a great opportunity to teach students about what the difference is between secondary and post-secondary institutions and what's different about the legal obligations. Self-determination skills are needed in college to get the support they are needed, and that does start in middle school and in high school. So let's make sure that we are doing what we can to make sure students always get the support they need.